Welcome back to the ETF Inspector. It is Friday, August 1st, just about 7:45 at night, and this is our daily coverage video for trades and holdings in YieldMax weekly paying funds, ULTY, the Ultra Option Income Strategy Fund, and LFGY, the Crypto Industry and Tech Portfolio Option Income ETF. Small update, since getting to come in and speak about ULTY on Retire on Dividends Saturday morning video. I'm up 500 subscribers, so very much appreciate that. All the new people, welcome. I do have a video in here. In case you are new here, I usually link it. I'll try to put the link up here so you don't have to look for it. But where is it? Right here. Nope. Okay, I'll put the link. There it is. Start here. All you need to know about ETF Inspector videos. I talk about the different colors and the way charts are set up and what I'm talking about. That way you're not lost. So I'll put the link up here. Hopefully that works. Quick reminder, I'm on X at ETF_Inspector1. I post when videos are coming out. Post stuff with other videos that I do, funds, tradings that gets done, distribution announcements for these as well as other funds, and that's about it. I did hop in on what are these things called? Spaces with Ambassador of Quan. It wasn't featuring me or anything. I just spoke for a few minutes. We're trying to set one up soon. It's just finding free time on my side of the schedule is the problem. Before I get started, I do want to recognize, as always, anybody that went obviously above and beyond, out of their way. I don't know if this is B Flight or Beef Light, but either way, B Flight did a $5 super chat in the middle of yesterday's video, and for some reason, it didn't come up in my notifications for me to scroll through, but I didn't want to let it go unrecognized, so wanted to announce that right here as a thank you. All right, so for our coverage, this was an ugly day. As we scroll through, right, ULTY, if you were looking for discount prices, today was the day. We definitely got some low prices, even below $6. So if you are a believer, then today doesn't make a difference. It was just a discount, and some people got scared, but a lot of us just bought more. I'm sure I'll see lots of comments about buying more. But as we scroll through, there wasn't a whole lot of green. You saw it on the thumbnail. And unfortunately, one of the ones in the green was Qualcomm, which we don't even own shares of. We just trade, so we didn't even get the benefit off of that. Then when you switch over to LFGY, even more red. Mercado Libre, the soul green there. So we will go a lot deeper than that when we get to our spreadsheets. But every day at the end of trading, 5:30-ish, we scroll down on YieldMax's site. Right to about the holdings, you get the intraday trades. That comes up and looks like this. It's kind of ugly. Doesn't give you a whole lot of information. You still have to multiply everything out to figure out what you're doing, and especially if when ULTY or any of them buys an individual stock or sells it, they don't tell you what they bought. They just give you the QSIP number. So then I have to look them up and fill them in so that you know what we're talking about. So there was about 170 trades for ULTY, and I think it was something like 110 for LFGY. It's Friday. We expect it. It's roll day. So everything that was expiring on Friday, we're going to close it out and sell the new one. All right. So we start off First Solar up today, and I believe, were they the one that we sold out of? Yes, First Solar. So we sold a couple different underlyings, but only sold completely out of First Solar. So close that out. Over $120 million collected on that one. Then we just put some money to work, right? We talked about new outstanding shares from yesterday, so more money coming in, plus this money, we're putting it to work buying roughly $18-ish million in a handful, not all of them for sure. Sold a portion of our Reddit shares and sold a little under half of our UVIX, 2 times long VIX futures ETF. Okay, then we get into the trades. If it is orange, there was a closeout and a roll, or at least just a closeout in First Solar's situation. When other times, if we just have a sold short and a bought, right, that's selling the new calls and buying the put on the new shares that just got purchased, mentioned up above. Right, so Applied Optoelectronics bought 866,100 shares. That allows them to trade 8,661 contracts, and that's exactly what they did. So all money always gets put to work. All shares always get put to work. Nobody gets a break. So starting that new collar position, and that's a collar. ULTY, for the most part, trades a collar. There's a couple in here that I'll show you that are something different, but a collar is where you own the underlying, you sell out of the money calls for income, and you buy out of the money puts just to protect in the event of days like today. So brought in $320,000 on those. AppLovin, same thing, $460,000 credit, starting the new collar position. ASTS, this is our first roll, closing out calls expiring today for 6 and 7 cents. Selling new ones for next week for $1.16, $1.22, collecting $769,000. Bitmine Immersion and Webull, same thing. We bought new shares. We start a new collar position, collecting $469,000 and $55,000. Coin, this one's pretty big. Look at what we paid to close out everything. A penny. A penny. So here's where there's puts where we talk about. So obviously the market tanked today, but ULTY, although it felt bad, didn't go down nearly as bad as it would have without this protection, because look at how much money came in on coin from these purchased puts. So normally we're going to buy to close our calls and sell new ones, and that's really where the money's made. Normally the puts don't really make us any money, and we got to spend money to buy the next one. Here's how much money we brought in closing out, selling the puts that we had. What's that? $5, $6, $7, $8 million that we wouldn't have had if we didn't protect it with that. And altogether, brought in a credit of $9.8 million between the closeouts and rolls. So thank you for those puts. First Solar, not a roll, just a closeout, because we completely sold out of the underlying, so we closed out all of our options. That cost us $42,000. And that is because First Solar didn't go down, so the puts did not become valuable. Fortunately, most of the calls weren't expensive to close out either. It was only the 185s that cost us much of anything. Galaxy Digital, closing out for this week, rolling to next week, plus selling some more shares to go with more options to go with the new shares. $1.8 million collected. Robinhood closing out for 12 cents. Open for next week for over $2, plus more to go with the new shares. $733,000. Innodata closing out. So this isn't a complete. So they already were sold out till August 15th, but since the stocks dropped so much, they closed their 60s and they sold 50s just to bring in more premium, bring the strike closer to the money, and then they actually sold some more 47s to go along with the new shares. 1.4 million collected. IonQ, again, so these were already rolled to next week. They closed out the 47s for next week and adjusted them down to 43.50s, paying 55 cents, collecting $1.05, so keeping the 50-cent difference, plus selling more to go with the new shares. Almost 700,000 collected. Mara, this is just starting the more collar positions to go with the new shares. 225,000 collected. MicroStrategy bringing in $1.7 million on the close and roll. Again, here's what we're paying to close out the calls, 6, 7, and 9 cents. Here's what we are collecting to close out the puts. Since we own them, we get to sell them at the end. 60 cents, $3.55, and $1.43. So those puts ended up bringing in over $400,000. So easily paying to close out and then having basically $400,000 left over. Then selling the new strikes for next week. 390s, 390s, 390s. So we selected 390 on all of them, but puts at 340. And we already said we brought in 1.7 million. Nebius Group closing out for 15 cents. Opening up for next week. Same price. So that one's not bad. For 189, keeping the difference. Adding more shares or more options to go with the new shares. $1 million collected. Oklo, another $1 million credit for closing out and rolling, paying 14 cents on the close, collecting $2.37 for the same strike next week, and then also closing out 85s that were already rolled to next week for 62 cents and selling them as 79s instead for $1.40. Palantir brought in $609,000 on the roll, closing out for a penny, collecting 2 cents for the put. So basically the puts brought us in more money than the calls cost us to buy back. That's always nice. And then sold the new ones for $5.92, almost $6, plus bought more shares, so we got more options to sell. Brought in $6.13 on them. Reddit, that one hurt, okay? But that's because Reddit had an enormous day. I think it started after hours, or I don't know if it was pre-market today or after hours yesterday, where they just took off and kept on going. But that's okay. Not the end of the world. It cost us $15 million on this roll. We brought in, we brought in $64 million selling a portion of it. So obviously doing all right there. And then we will see how much our shares increased in value based off of the increase. And it will also be much more than the $15 million. But closing out and rolling up by like $30 to $35 till next week. $15 million loss. Rigetti just selling new options to go with the new shares. 395,000 collected. New Scale Power, SMR, closing out for 11 cents, selling for $2.20, then selling some more. Closing out some that were already sold for next week at 56, dropping them down to 50 to collect more premium as well, and selling some to go with the new shares. All in all, $3.8 million collected. Snap is just selling options to go with the new shares, $164,000 credit. Upstart brought in $1.6 million on this close and roll. So paying pennies, 3 to 4 cents, 11 cents to close out. Options expiring today. Picking up 10, 16, and 8 cents on selling the puts that were expiring today. And then selling the new for around $5. But we're paying almost just as much for the puts. So I don't know if puts just cost a lot more right now because the market was tanking, or if they picked a higher put price than they usually do just to continue protecting the shares. So paid a good premium for the new puts and still put $1.6 million in the pocket. UVIX, they only closed out. They're already out till August 15th on what they had in their holdings. So they closed out the portion that went along with the shares that they sold. And this is a different strategy, so I'll talk a little bit different about the strategy that they have on the next page. And I was trying to look it up and figure out what to call it, and I'm gonna kind of leave it up to you guys to give me some help. But cost them $2 million to close out the shares that they, or the options that went with the shares that they sold. And finally, last one on the trade list, Vertiv Holdings. We brought in $602,000 on the close and roll, closing out 148s for this week, 4 and 5 cents paid, collecting more for the puts, so that worked out well. And then selling 145s and 148s for next week to go with what we closed out plus the new shares. And also, I don't think we bought new shares. That's just to go along. You got 27.45 and 27.45, 394 and 394, and then they closed out something that was already rolled to next week. 155s, dropped them down to 148s. So no new shares on Vertiv. That was just 3 different closeouts, $600,000 credit. So all in all, on the trading day, options wise, we brought in $10.7 million. Now, obviously, the way the market went today, this was our worst dollar amount day. I don't keep track of percentage wise, but that's the most we've decreased in value in a day, 92 million. So we'll take a look and see who is responsible for most of it. All right, with it being Friday, we don't care about the options now because basically everything that was going to expire August 1st is now closed and rolled to the next week, so that won't get updated until the holdings comes out tomorrow. And it's Friday. We don't care about options for next week and the week beyond. On Friday, we just want to see how things went and start our weekend. So we'll get through these a little quicker than usual, just kind of talk about how each underlying did. And maybe we'll highlight the very drastic moves. So Applied Optoelectronics was down almost 6% to 21.53, decreased of $5 million in value. Now these changes are different than the trading changes. Trading, things are actually being sold, bought and sold and closed out. So those are realized gains and losses, whereas these are just unrealized is what they're called. So this is just your movement up and down. If you don't sell, then nothing's locked in as a win or a loss. This is just change in value. AppLovin down almost 3%, 379 and change, $3.7 million decrease. AST Space Mobile down 1.3%, not too bad, $1 million decrease. Bitmine Immersion down 8.5% to 3170, $7+ million drop. Webull down over 6%, 1333. It's kind of getting close to the ranges I was trading them before. I might try it again. $2 million decrease. Coinbase, this one hurts, especially if you're used to these videos and you see a 16% loss and it's not highlighted red. This is not our biggest drop, but it's a big one. As you see, we were 377 at the close of yesterday, 314 at the close of today. $21 million decrease in value. First Solar, 5.29% increase. So I might have gotten a little confused on something. So a $6 million increase in value. We saw it cost $15 million to close out. So some of that math's not making sense. First Solar. Oh, I'm confused. That's the wrong thing. It cost $42,000 to close out. Okay, ignore me. $6 million increase. We sold all the shares. We closed out the options for $42,000. It was a different one. Galaxy Digital down almost 5.5%, $4.7 million decrease in value. Robinhood down 3%, dropped our value by 2.6 million. Robinhood's back under 100, 99.9. InnoData is the big loser today, down over 18%, $21 million decrease in value. That one definitely hurt. They were about 4.7% of our holding. IonQ down 4.3%, 38.14. I sell puts on them. You see in my, I had to do a pretty drastic roll to not get slammed on that one. $4.8 million decrease. Mara Holdings down 3.6% to 1550, $3.8 million decrease. And again, I'm sorry, if you're new here, I generally talk about the options, how far in or out of the money they are, when they expire, but it's Friday, right? Everything for this week's done, and we're not worried about next week. We do that in the Sunday video where we do the deep dive. All the holdings are updated. Everything's current because there's no trading on Saturday and Sunday, so it lets everything catch up. And then we also do our guesstimate if you're not familiar with the channel. MicroStrategy down 8.7%, 366. So they were over 400 yesterday. $11 million decrease. Nebius Group down almost 4.5%, $5.8 million decrease. Oklo down 6.65%, $6 million decrease. Palantir look down there, down 2.5%, $1.8 million decrease. For some reason, we have a smaller position of Palantir. We've dropped them, with them being such a big name, and it's not like they have low IV. I'm not sure why we have such a small amount of shares comparative to the rest. Qualcomm was one of the ones that went up. So here's the one where I was talking about. So you guys chime in the comments. What we've got on Qualcomm. So right here is easy. This is just a put spread, right? We sold 145. We bought 140. The contracts line up. That's a piece of cake. So we've got a put spread out to next Friday. For that, it's 2.15% out of the money. No big deal. 148 is where it closed. We don't own shares of them. That's why we don't have like that full gray line. We just are trading them. We sold our shares yesterday. Now, here's the position. It's all calls. We have purchased calls, 2,000 contracts at 145. All of our sales, all of our short calls are at 150, and then we've purchased 5,400 at 155. So at first I started thinking along the lines of when you have two purchases and one sale or vice versa, you've got like a ratio spread, but in that case it's generally 2 times as many calls sold than bought, or 2 times as many bought than sold. This, we've got like our purchases spread out and our sales in the middle. So I even made the trade on Option Strat. I like that website a lot. If you've never been there, I've used them to actually explain. I've used them to explain different things, just like the collar. Right? It explains what a collar is. That's what ULTY trades. So I created it. You can build your own. I'm not going to sit here and waste all your time on it, but I built that exact trade on here, and it just called it custom. It didn't have a name for it. And as you can see, they've got a whole list of different names of option strategies, and it did not come up with a name for it. It just said custom. So I'll look for a little bit of help from you guys if you know what that's called. So I don't even know how to pick the one that we want to pay attention to, so I colored them all in blue. We'll just pay attention to this whole strategy as a whole and see what happens. All right. Back to the regular collar strategies. Reddit up 17.3%. We did sell some shares, and it cost a lot of money to close those out. Was this the one we were talking about? Maybe $15 million? Yes. So that's what I was talking about. So $15 million to close it out, but it increased our value by $25 million. So all in all, we went up in value by $10 million. Rigetti down 2.6%. That almost seems normal compared to everything else. Almost $3 million decrease. SMCI down almost 4% and a $3.5 million decrease. Yeah, as you can see, I didn't finish with my colors, but actually Why did I color that blue? Do we have a different strategy here too? Yeah, so we have a debit call spread on SMCI where we purchased 60s and sold 70s for next week. So that's why those 60s are in blue as opposed to those sold, because this is what we want to watch, and that for that to go in the money. No reason why that's yellow. I don't know what's going on. I'm not going to change colors now. We don't care. Everything will be straightened out before we. So here we go. Sold 55s, and then we purchased puts, broke it up between 45s and 44s. So even with today's 4% drop, these are still in the money. I'm just not sure how they ended up yellow. Because a sold call, we don't want it to be in the money if it's the one we're trying to make money off of. New scale power down 11.5%, $14 million decrease in value. Snap down 4%, under 10. Well, it was already under $10. 905, $2.6 million decrease. Tempest AI down 3% even, $1.9 million decrease. Upstart down over 3%, $3.8 million decrease. Here's those UVIX 2 times long VIX futures, up almost 17%. So that was a nice little purchase. As you saw, we sold 974,000 shares, so we'll be left with an even million when we do the download tomorrow. Yeah, those should be red because they were in the money. $5.7 million increase in value. Vertiv Holdings down 2.75%. That dropped our value by $1.7 million. And finally, Vistra Corp down 0.25%, $139,000. No big deal. So all of that combines to explain how we dropped in value by $92 million. All right, from yesterday, we had an increase. More people buying into the fund. Not quite as much as usual. We've been getting 20 and 30 million a day sometimes, but 6,700,000 more shares got bought into the fund yesterday, bringing us up to just under 430 million. Before the day started, our assets under management was 2.6 billion. Right, that doesn't take into account the 92 million decrease in value. It doesn't take into account the 10 or so million dollar credit or profits from trading. So tomorrow morning I download everything again, and we'll be all set for the Sunday video that everybody seems to like so much. All right, so that's the story on ULTY. Took a long time to tell it, but that's how Fridays go. So you come for the Friday video, just get yourself a drink and some popcorn and relax. But we'll get through it. Okay, LFGY, we can get through it quicker. I say it every time. There's less shares within the fund and less trades to talk about. Okay, we're not going to talk about ones where they're not a complete closeout or roll and switch to the new position, because we got stuff like 5 contracts for 70 cents. So I highlight the ones we're going to talk about. BitDeer is the first one. Closing out for this week, rolling to next week, collecting 28,000. Now these numbers are all going to seem a lot smaller, but we just went from a $2.6 billion fund down to a $190 million fund. So everything's going to be a lot smaller by more than 10 times. Clean Spark closing out for this week, rolling to next week, $121,000 credit. Coinbase closing out for this week, rolling to next week, $162,000. Core Scientific closing for this week, rolling to next week, closing some of next week's, and also getting them closer to the money. All in all, 96,000. I did hear people talking about protective puts with LFGY recently, that they do not use them. It's not to say that they can't or won't, but I'm just telling you right now, there are no protective puts protecting the underlyings in LFGY. We got Ethereum ETF closing out for this week, rolling to next week, $121,000 credit. Galaxy Digital, you're getting tired of hearing me saying it, closing out for this week, rolling to next week, $78,000 credit. GameStop, $45,000 credit on the close and roll to next week. Hut 8 Corp, $130,000 on the close and roll to next week. MicroStrategy, $166,000 credit on the close and roll to next week. Nvidia, closing out for this week, rolling to next week, $34,000 credit. And Riot's going to be the last complete one, closing for this week, rolling to next week, $129,000 credit. That all results in a $1.1 million credit or profit on the trading profit and loss for the day. That's going to go along with a $12 million decrease in value of the fund based on practically everything going down. We almost didn't have anything that we could highlight in green on this chart as the big winner, and you'll see why. Bitmine down almost 8.5%. I think I'm going to only highlight the ones that are like $1 million value change or greater. But look at these, 57% out of the money on these calls for next week, for 2 weeks from now. BitDeer down over 6% to 12.11. CleanSpark down over 8% to 10.44. Coinbase down over 16% to 3.14. Again, it's always scary when we got a negative 14% and it's not our big, or negative 16% and it's not our big loser. But that one brought us down by 2.8 million. Coinbase is a large percentage of this fund. They are not very evenly allocated the way ULTY is. So, but there was a point where they were 16 or 17%. So they're down to 9. So that didn't hurt as bad as it would have a couple weeks ago. Core Scientific down 6.5% to 12.65. I believe, isn't there something with, is Core Scientific trying to buy CoreWeave or vice versa? You guys probably know. Circle Internet Group down 8.4% to 168. iShares Ethereum down 6.2%, 2651. Galaxy Digital down 5.4% to 2688. For some reason, this is a weird one. Excel spreadsheets. I'm kind of off on a side note. I get it why Circle Internet Group doesn't come up, where it can look up the stocks for you, because it just kind of came out a few weeks ago. But Galaxy Digital has been around longer. We've been trading them longer, and it still doesn't recognize them. So I have to input the information manually every day. GameStop down 1.5%, 2211. Sometimes going through these videos reminds me that I didn't make all the trades I wanted to make personally, because I would have liked to have sold a put on GameStop. Robinhood Markets down. I just saw that change. Robinhood Markets down over 3%, back under 100. Didn't hurt us too bad. We don't have a lot of, 6%. We just have a lot less money in this fund overall. Hut 8 Corp down 6.8% to 1978, under 20, over $500,000 decrease. iShares Bitcoin Trust, IBIT, down 3.17%. We don't have any options, so it's just an overall decrease in value of $600,000. Mara Holdings down 3.6%, 1550. MBTX, I'm sure it was a decrease, but that's another one that doesn't show up. I have to look that one up and input it manually. So they were down to 267. We've got two strategies on them, credit call spread and a debit put spread. So that going down today will increase the value of that debit put spread, and it makes this credit call spread an easier win. So the down movement on MBTX only helped us today, because we don't own shares. So it helps us win our credit call spread, and it helps us increase our value of our debit put spread. So we'd be happy with MBTX dropping. Mercado Libre, the big winner of the day, up less than 0.1%. But when you're the only winner, you're the big winner. Helped us by $6,000 increase in value. MicroStrategy down 8.7%. dropping our value by over 1.5 million. NU Holdings down 1.39%. Nvidia down 2.33%, 173. That's still a nice high number on Nvidia. Let's see. If we look at Nvidia, yeah, from our April lows, it's almost doubled. So it's been on a crazy run. Opera down 4.28% to 1586. PayPal Holdings down 2.4%, 6711. Riot Platforms, the big loser, 17.75% drop, just around 11. They might be prime for selling puts, but $1.6 million decrease as they are just about 5% of our holdings. And last but not least, Block down 4.18% to 7403. So that's how we totaled our $12.2 million decrease in value on LFGY. When the day started, we were at 190 million assets under management. So obviously between the $12 million decrease in value and the only $1.1 million increase from trading, we're down around 180. But then that doesn't account for if any new money came into the fund or people sold out of it. From yesterday, people sold out of it. We had a decrease of 100,000 shares. And again, so the NAV and closing price are going to be way off, but that's because everything hasn't updated for the holdings. So tomorrow, everything will be right. All right, so make sure you come back on Sunday. I pretty much get almost twice as many views on the Sunday, and it's a long-form video. We really dig deep, but you got more time on Sunday to watch. Friday night, you're looking to get your weekend started. I understand. So quick recap. You guys have asked for this. ULTY had a trading surplus of 10.7 million and a share value decrease of 92.8 million. And LFGY was a $1.1 million trading surplus and a $12.2 million share value decrease. Okay, that's it. We've got the dad joke of the day for you. Just kind of a highlight what else there is to come. On Saturdays, I do my, where is it? Did I already pass the last weekend? I do my own personal trading for the past week. All right, so just show you options I've sold or bought, what strategies, poor man's covered call or spreads or just regular wheel. Then also go over my dividend funds, different YieldMax and things like that I have. On Saturday, I also just do a once a week video for these 7 individual income funds that are traded with YieldMax, AMD, AMZ, Aptly, Phoebe, GUI, Misfo, and Nefli. And then I do a distribution guesstimate for whichever one is coming up in the upcoming week. And then Sunday's the big video, the week look ahead for ULTY and LFGY and the payment distribution guesstimates. Okay, so I will still be seeing lots of you this weekend. All right, so thank you, everybody. Thanks for watching, all the comments, all the live chats. They're fun, and everything. I appreciate it. So, dad joke of the day. I just applied for a job down at the diner. I told them I really bring a lot to the table. All right, let me know if that one made you laugh. If not, I'll try again tomorrow. Okay, everybody have a great weekend. And other than watching my videos, try not to think about the market until Monday. Okay, good night.